So, good morning and welcome to Authentically Me, Tina Brown. Today I want to talk about this little saying we have on the back of our recovery coins called "To Thy Own Self Be True." And what does that exactly mean? So, when I first started recovery, I guess "To Thy Own Self Be True" meant I didn't understand. It kind of went into selfish things and like, what do I want? That's kind of the way I thought of it, What do I need? All that kind of stuff. And today, by the grace of God, I know that it really does not mean that. It means, first I have to know thyself in order to be true to thyself, right? So who am I? So I have to start by asking myself, who am I? In the beginning of recovery, we don't really mess around with who am I, right? Because we got to just get clean house and do what we got to do to get right in our heads. But after a few years, right, we get to start going, well, who am I authentically? Who am I authentically? Not who was I in the street, not who I am at the bar, not who am I around boys, or who am I around girls, or who am I at the sports fan, or who am I? Not that. All that is surface, but who am I really? What am I is more like it. What am I? Before I can go to thy own self be true, I need to know, who is the true self? Where is she? Is there a true self beyond this skin, beyond this brain, beyond feelings and thoughts? And all that has been discovered through a spiritual practice, getting to know my Creator, getting to know the authentic self, the truth of Tina, the everlasting being that I actually am, the eternal, the energy source that is me, right, is you. The fact that, to discover that there is no separation, that there's no way to be separate from Source, right? And that's taken a long time. But now that I have discovered that there is no separation between me and Source, and there is no real me, actually, right? It's just one thing happening here. I have a friend of mine, Jacqueline, that says there's only one thing going on here. Once I've discovered that, and discovered the truth of all the false beliefs and all the false bravado and all the falsities that used to run my life, once those things have been discovered and peeled away, then I can say, what am I left with? Oh, I'm left with the truth, true self. Then, and only then, can I go to thy own self be true and go, wow. And you know what that frees me of? When I can really go to thy own self be true, once I know what the true self is and what the true self isn't, all of a sudden there's no reason to fight. Yay! There's no reason for a cage. There's no reason to argue. There's no reason to be up in arms about anything. There's no reason to fear. There's no reason. All that stuff fades away after I get down to who I really am. Who and what am I really? And that connects me directly to the breath of God, right? And so if I'm truly the breath of God, there is nothing, and I mean nothing, that is going wrong in my life. Not now, not ever. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if this brain says this is wrong, just because it doesn't look the way that the brain is saying it should look, doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. And now that I understand that, it's easier for me to go to thy own self be true. Because the only thing I get upset about is when I'm allowing this mind to cling to something that is an illusion. And then that steals my serenity, right? The true self never loses serenity. It never lives in fear. It doesn't know anger. It doesn't know any of that stuff. The truth and the true self of me is this beautiful light this spiritual being that is here experiencing all these things. And experience is good as long as I don't cling to them, any of them. Not you, not a job, not a belief, none of it. To just allow it all to happen without the clinging on to anything of the belief. And then I get freedom from to thy own self be true. So how true are you to yourself? Have a good day.